Alright guys, welcome back to Naked Exposure. So Minolta made some of the best affordable film cameras on the market. They were the underdog for the longest time in the camera space because Nikon, Canon, Leica, all of these companies sort of had the upper edge of Minolta. Minolta was classed as like the copycat cheap camera company. But like looking back now and using, their old legacy glass and using their camera bodies and having, a very long distance away from the history of when it happened and having a non-biased look. I've not got all the advertising stuff, the promotional material from companies then, the time trying to fight each other. I can see that Minolta was an incredible brand. They produced insane cameras, they produced really great glass, like the naming schemes and sometimes the way they look gives them, it makes them look like they fall short. But the sharpness and the sort of background separation and bokeh and stuff you get on Minolta lenses is beautiful. I personally really love it, and their 51.7 standard nifty 50 lenses are absolutely incredible. They produce such sharp images. I absolutely love the effect it has, and when you consider, especially nowadays, how cheap you can get a Minolta body and that 51.7, sometimes for under £50 you're getting a full SLR setup with a lens, and you're getting results that are better than a Canon 81. Well, not, I can't say better, I mean on par with a Canon 81, because like my Canon 81 was my first film SLR that I owned, and I loved that thing. It was absolutely fantastic. But when I tried out the Minolta XGM, which I would say is like Minolta's equivalent of a Canon 81, I think I prefer the Minolta XGM. It just has more features, it feels a bit more advanced, and the Canon has a cheaper, I don't know, Minolta was just nailing it, and I imagine at the time when the XGM came out, it probably cost more than a Canon 81, I can't say for sure, but I would imagine so. Which leads me to, why I'm talking about all this is, one of Minolta's most legendary cameras in my opinion is this one, and that is the Minolta SRT-101. Now, this was actually the first ever film SLR that I ever took a picture on entirely. Like it wasn't the first camera I owned, but my girlfriend, now ex at the time, it was Christmas and I bought her a film camera for Christmas. I just went on eBay, didn't know anything about film cameras, did some looking about and just saw this camera, Minolta SRT-101 with a 51.7, and I was like, okay, that looks nice, I'll buy that. Christmas Day came, I bought a roll of Ector 100 for it so she could shoot it, and I remember picking this up and using it on Christmas Day and us loading the roll and having no idea how to put it in, had absolutely no clue how to insert the film into the camera, googled it online, did all this, set the ISO, all the shots were kind of underexposed, grainy, but it was cool, and the thump that it had at the time, hearing that, hearing the toe, like it just has such a good thump of a shutter. The build qualities are unreal, and when I bought my own film camera a week later, I had to have my own after trying that. It made me fall in love instantly. I bought the Canon 81, which is just down there. I bought the Canon 81, and I always kind of felt like, god damn it, I wish I could have the Minolta SRT-101. The Canon 81 was built on plastic materials, it was lighter, it just felt a bit more cheap and less durable, whereas this camera was built like an actual tank. And when I say tank, I mean like a literal tank. Like I imagine they used materials like this to build tanks. It's so heavy, it's so cumbersome, it's very slow to shoot, but it's really methodical, and it just has a really satisfying click to it. It feels like you're taking pictures, and as I said, this setup, you can be picked up with a lens and the body for under £50. So if you're someone who really likes a slow weekend camera, I wouldn't say it's a daily driver, I wouldn't say you're going to do all your main work on it. I would say if you like shooting at the weekend, having a slower time, if you're with friends and you just want a camera that really makes you think, turn all the dials, think about it, set your settings, look at the scene, the Minolta SRT-101 is excellent for that. It just feels really good and it feels satisfying. If you're more into your having the camera let it do some things like an aperture control or something, or shutter priority, and have some sort of auto exposure modes, the Minolta XGM is the one I would recommend. It's basically a more modern version of this that has, it's a bit cheaper, has the same kind of build materials as the Canon 81, but it's like a third of the cost of the Canon 81, and I would say it's as good or better than it. So yeah, this camera was the thing that started it all for me, and I could not recommend it enough. As I said, not a main shooter. If this is going to be your first SLR, probably not this one. you know, but it can run without a battery. I don't use batteries in this at all. It runs fully off just that mechanical tension, that resistance. You build it up, fire it, and that's it. It's incredible, it really is, and it's such a beautiful lens as well. I actually have a story about this. My mum's cousin, who used to work in camera stores in, I think, the 80s, he used to work on Minoltas and all this stuff. About a year ago, he knew that I was into photography, and he gave me a bag of just old stuff he had. It had like an old Zenit in it, it had a Minolta 110 camera, and it had this lens in it. Now this was when I actually didn't own a Minolta, so I just had this lens. Didn't think anything of the lens, just kind of kept it in a cupboard for 6 months. And then I got this body for £20, a really cheap deal came up for a Mint SRT-101. I picked it up, chucked the lens on, and then that's when I discovered, after shooting it, the results were absolutely crazy. And the results are so good, oh my god, it looks so good. The way it renders colours, black and white, the sharpness, detail, amazing. So yeah, that's a great camera. Really, really recommend it. And yeah, if you have any experiences with the Minolta SRT-101, tell me, because I'd really love to know. I think it's great. I think it's the mechanical underdog, because you know, you've got the Nikon F3, the FM2, which are definitely superior cameras, but it's on that build quality level which you really can't get for cheap in a lot of cameras unless you buy a Zenit, which Zenits are cool, but personally not my type of camera. I would much prefer this. I much prefer Minolta. Yeah, 1967 camera, and it just feels like it's from 1967. They are never building a camera like this ever again. So yeah, if you've got any questions, leave them below. Subscribe to my channel. Just a little quick one about the Minolta SRT-101. I didn't want to have like a whole big video on it. I just felt like it was good to show some pictures, talk about it, and give my thoughts on a very timeless, legendary, tanky camera. So yeah, see you in the next one.